be exploring 5 different avenues for building creative capacity. I will introduce each presenter or group of presenters and ask that you save any questions that you have until the group question and answer session following our 5 presentations. Let's see. We will begin with Patton Littman, and I'll go ahead and give a little background about her while she finishes up here. Patton has a well-rounded experience in many facets of education, media, and marketing. She has worked as an adjunct faculty member for colleges in Boston and Colorado. She's created nonprofit organizations to activate systemic change and spur on school reform in inner-city Denver schools. She participated on grant writing teams that secured $10 million in multi-year grants for Metro State and Denver Public Schools. She operated a private high school that incorporated distance learning and experiential education for 15 students in Big Sky. She taught 6th to 12th grade students in a public school setting in Big Sky, and she served on several task forces and committees advising public school systems in both Colorado and Montana. Before all of that, she worked on sets and in post-production houses around Boston and Denver. When she moved to Montana, she was part of the groundbreaking Lone Peak High School faculty as a film and video and computer applications teacher. In the past 3 years, Hatton has served on 2 committees designed to link Montana State University's Arts and Humanities Department with the Big Sky community and with the students at Lone Peak High School. When she is not out saving the world with media, she is outside with her family. Her 2 boys still try to beat her down the mountain on their skis, and her dog knows that she is the one who can really do all the tricks. Patton is now currently teaching the School of Media Arts Cell Phone Cinema class. And presenting with Patton today, we have Steele Williams and Stephen Allen Cedar. They are both students in Patton's class. So I'm going to give just a little background about each of them as well. So Steele Williams was born in Raleigh, North Carolina, and currently resides in Missoula. He will graduate this spring with a degree in photojournalism. Williams has completed 2 photography internships at both the Flathead Beacon and the Missoula Independent over the past 8 months. He's received several awards for his work, including a scholarship for professional promise in photojournalism and 2 first-place awards from the Montana Broadcasters Association and the Society of Professional Journalists for in-depth radio reporting. Williams plans to travel to Ethiopia upon graduation, where he will pursue his passion for multimedia working for the International Medical Corps. And Stephen Allen Cedar was born in Billings, Montana. His artistic expressions vary from canvas painting to film work. He loves the theater and is currently pursuing a BFA in acting at the School of Theater and Dance, along with a BA in Media Arts. His favorite pastimes include writing and reading classical literature. He has an aptitude for visual art and enjoys discovering as much about life as he can. And I think we are as good as it gets right now.
We are. Thank you, Heather. I appreciate that. My students, Stephen and Steele, are going to actually be moving in and out of all of these rooms and interacting with you through the rest of the conference so that we can present at the end of the conference some of the images and video we captured. So they're not actually presenting this morning. What I want you to take from Heather's introduction and the bio that I've crafted is that I've taught in a K-12 setting. I've taught in a university setting as an adjunct in places across the country. I'm a parent of 2 children that are elementary aged, and the core DNA that I possess is innovation. That's my deal. And I like big ideas and I like moving forward on them. So everything that I say to you today comes from that perspective. And I'm sorry that the visuals that you'll be getting are a little cropped, but hopefully I can be dynamic enough to hold your attention. So I'm really interested in how school districts and how universities and how communities can support innovation and innovative people and not be afraid of them and not squash their innovation. Because ultimately then those innovators move on and they go away. And then that locality or that school district or that university loses out. And so I want to share my experience and help you take some tidbits of how you in your own position could either feel supported as a fellow innovator or how you as an administrator or as a co-teacher could help support other innovators in your school. So as Rick Hughes mentioned at the beginning of his keynote, or somewhere in the middle of his keynote, he and I co-developed a class called Cell Phone Cinema. I spent about 3 months this fall developing it, and I'm now teaching it. This is finals week, and my students have their final critiques due on Thursday. So at the university level, when you have an experimental class, it needs to be taught twice and then reviewed at a higher level before it's adopted into the course catalog. So this course is still at the experimental level. And Rick did a really good job of showing you the impetus for that class was this acknowledgement that we all have movie production studios in our pockets. If you don't have an iPhone 4 or an iPhone 4S, you still have a movie production studio in your pocket. And I want to tell you a little bit about the class and then tell you about what I think you can do to be an innovative teacher. So first things first, never, ever, ever be afraid to be wrong. I am not the chief technology guru whiz kid with electronic gadgets. I've become one because I'm curious, but you can't ever let your fear of not knowing enough about either the electronics or the Wi-Fi access or what's the coolest new thing to stop you. You need to expose yourself to this attitude of, I'm going to find out at the same time my students are. Because that feeling, I've come from this position, I've moved from being a teacher who felt like I had to stand up in front of the class and always know my content and know exactly what I was saying, to being somebody who's really exposing my kids to my own vulnerabilities as a staff member and my own limitations and challenging them to surpass themselves and me. This is a really big one. Has anybody heard BYOT, Bring Your Own Technology? My whole class is based on Bring Your Own Technology. I started the class with 2 extra cell phones that were mine, that were old, in case a student was brave enough to sign up and didn't have their own mobile device. But everybody showed up with their own mobile device, and I had about 4 or 5 different platforms, including a student who started the class shooting with a flip phone that had a 1.3 megapixel camera. And he completed all of his projects until his final with that camera. And so he was not at all hindered by the fact that he didn't have the newest, most awesome, most expensive technology. Because I know that's a big question. Hey, we're dealing with students that have huge demographic variances in what they have access to, but everybody has a freaking cell phone, okay? Maasai warriors now have better mobile connectivity than Ronald Reagan did as president, okay? So everybody has a cell phone. Let's just get over that. It's also, oh, that's a right click. Sorry, I'm not a PC user. It's also really important to address these types of classes when you're talking about innovation, you're talking about something new as a lab environment. I'm a big fan of addressing all of your classes as a lab environment, but you have to give away power. You have to give away control. You have to give away being the person with answers. And you have to shut up and sit there and make your students talk to each other about what they learned doing their projects. We function like a boardroom in our classroom, and so Steele, who's shooting over here, was a great example of somebody who would come in every week and say, oh, I figured out this new way to stabilize my phone, and he would show us his new jerry-rig contraption. The students have to share out. They have to have the ability to share out. So you have to really flip that. It's not a flipped classroom. You're not doing your content at home and then coming in, but the class itself is a lab environment. You have to require a variety of outputs for a class like this. It's not about teaching kids to make just short narrative films, okay? It's about acknowledging the fact that when they go out into the world and they experience their professional careers in any kind of setting, they're going to have to communicate. And they're going to have to communicate in short, concise, clear ways. And oftentimes media is the best way to do that. If they need to pitch a project to their boss, how great would it be if they showed him a 30-minute clip of how this new device actually works? And then how great would it be if he then goes to the chief executive of the company and she says, awesome, I get it, I see it, thank you, you now have money. So I'm going to show you a few quick clips. I'm going to move through them quickly, you won't see all of them. But all of this was shot on cell phones. So students are still using the same visual language that we're teaching them. That means good media, good storytelling. They're just using this tiny little device that they already owned, that they already have intimate understanding of. And this student, by the way, is South Korean, and she brings this whole international view on her perspective of mobile technology. going to fast forward just for the sake of you seeing a different piece. This is Steele's piece. He comes from the photojournalism.
So most Missourians are fortunate enough to have the luxuries that we may sometimes take for granted. So, whereas you might define luxury as a nice car or a nice home, fancy meal, there's a group of people who see luxury much differently. Luxury to these people can be as simple as a mass-produced meal, or getting a clean community shower, or just having a place to lay their heads at night. So anyways, what started off as a soup kitchen, I think in 1974, has evolved into Montana's largest homeless shelter. It serves up to 300 people a day in tons of different ways.
So Steele did this
So I
project
spent
at
the
the
last
Umbrella
month
Center.
donating
It's
my
a
time to the
high-quality
Umbrella Center. serving
photojournalism and
meal-
radio. This one's really intense. So I'm going to go past that just for the sake of time here, but I told Stephen at the end of this particular project, it was so compelling and moving, I said that really needs to be used in the school in an anti-bullying campaign by a student who just shot at themselves with their friends with their own cell phone. Everybody has access to this. At the end of Stephen's piece, and I apologize for not playing the whole thing, I had chills. Okay, so let's aside from the fact that you can make movies and you can make media on your cell phone, it's really important if you're building a class like this to talk about all the things your mobile device can do. And I'm going to go into that, I'm over, hopefully not, quickly. But, you know, these phones do a lot more than just make media or just make phone calls or just send texts. And it's important that you think about how you can monetize those opportunities. So what can an institution do to support staff innovation? Number one, they need to recognize that media skills are essential to everyone in every department and every student that's going to go anywhere. This is a quick excerpt from a white paper that Adobe released 5 years ago. And you can link to this from my webpage, which is linked to the conference webpage as well. But essentially they're saying professionals working in disciplines such as journalism, and of course it's cut off because of our aspect ratio, journalism, education, and medicine need media development skills. Everybody needs to be able to convey their ideas through media, period. I had a #1 student from Ophir School District who wants to go on and study nanotechnology. He took all of my film classes because he understood that he needed to know how to convey his ideas through media. Other things that you need to do to support innovative teachers. You need to invite 1 to 2 year teaching fellows. Find a way to fund them, get them into your school districts or into your universities. You have to, because they're the people that are out there doing interesting things. And if you're always stuck in a classroom, you're not always exposed to what's interesting. I'm speaking from experience, okay? Because I was stuck in a classroom for 5 years and then I got to move around a little and had this huge mushroom cloud of growth. Okay? You need to find ways to listen to your staff that already want to do this. You could have a biology teacher, you could have a shop teacher, you could have a dance teacher, you could have a phys ed teacher who wants to incorporate media into their work. As an administrator or as a co-teacher, find a way to keep talking to them. Because if they already have a passion for it, they're spending their own time developing these skills and developing their curriculum. You also need to only invest in technology that you actually need to own. School districts, you don't need to go buy cameras. Kids show up with them in their pockets, okay? You only need to buy computers for them to edit on and give them really stout Wi-Fi access. This is a big problem for me as a parent in my children's elementary school. I can't move anywhere in the building and have access to Wi-Fi. And you know, it's like, yeah, we know that's a problem and we just kind of deal with it. Stop dealing with it, period. Like, no questions asked. Stop squashing that innovation. If you can't get your work done anywhere in that building, then that's a problem. Furthermore, train your staff if they're uncomfortable with it. Give them support. have a technology person in the building all the time for them to bounce ideas off of and actually get support. I mean, I'm somebody who uses technology and I couldn't figure out how to make this look just right for you this morning. I needed to go hound this guy and find him. Well, have that guy in your building, because teachers will stop using technology if they can't make it work, if it interrupts the flow. So it is a staffing and there's a money decision around that. Okay, quickly, I want you to use your legal staff to support innovative ideas. Your legal staff needs to be creating policies, permission slips, getting prepared for the fact that students are going to create work that has copyright, patent, and publishing implications. And the district level or university level legal staff actually needs to be given time and tasks to figure out those problems. So that one staff member who has a really cool idea doesn't stop with that cool idea because they're afraid of what the outcome might be. Okay?
Okay, I'm sorry.
Oh, you're going to cut me off.
Yeah.
I would love to talk to you all more later. Sorry we had technical issues, but I'm really excited to see the next presenter. Thanks, Heather.
Wonderful, thank you. Our next presenter is John Combs. He is the Fine Arts Supervisor for Missoula County Public Schools. With over 34 years of public service to Montana schools, John believes that an essential element of a child's education is their participation in the arts. I need to do something,
I have a PowerPoint up there.
you do, okay.
And backwards is which one? All right, thanks. I brought my own technology. That was a little bit about sharing what I love to do. And I can't get this thing to work, so I'll just do this, I think.
Yes.
Okay, that's not it.
You know what, I'll sit over here.
Okay, thanks. That was awesome. Okay, so real quickly, how are you created, Missoula? That's the question that I asked. About 3 months ago, I asked Missoula, how are you creative? Oh my gosh. I had to whisper it because I was afraid that I was going to get a tsunami of response. And with whispering it, I still received 75 individuals and groups who said, we'd like to show you how we're creative. And create Missoula from A to Z looked like this. We had acrylic painting, ballet dancing, clay pottery, djembe bada, extemporaneous prose, folk songs, gymnastics, guitar, hulusi. Anybody know what that is? It's an ancient Chinese instrument, kind of like the clarinet, but not at all like the clarinet. And harp, improvisatory jazz, jazz band, kakong, Indonesian gamelan. We had a kid gamelan thing group chat. This is what's showing up in Missoula with me going, how are you creative? Line dancing. marching percussion, Native American flute, orchestras, puppets and poetry, quilting, rhythm and blues, Sweet Analyze performed. A group called Turning the Wheel did this investigative, oh, it was exciting. Women's Ensemble, the very special arts performed. We had watercolor, we had xylophones, we had young and old. We had a little girl.
That was my very first piano recital.
To some folks that were well into their senior citizenship, showing their thing. And then Zootown Arts was one of our places. We had, at one time, 7 events going on in one night. Just constant barrage of activity. Create Missoula is about waking up our community to what we have inside of ourselves. Now you think maybe, really, Missoula is you know how many things we've got going on in this town? You ever open up the Entertainer? Yeah, this was one more. The idea was to not say, this is a fine arts festival, this is an art festival, this is a you tell me how you're creative festival. So people who had never thought that they would be able to come out had the opportunity to do this, and the results were really fun. Humans are designed to be creative. It's 100% in our DNA, and I believe that effective education connects that creative gene. And I think we heard that a few times with our previous speakers, didn't we? Sir Ken Robinson, perhaps you've seen the TED thing where I love his English accent. It goes through and he talks about how we just kind of stamping kids out. And what's the thing? Well, there's one point in his presentation where he says this. Now, this is exactly what he said, so forgive the punctuation, I was guessing. The arts address the idea of aesthetic experience where your senses are operating at their peak, when you are present in the current moment, where you're resonating with the excitement of this thing that you're experiencing, when you're fully alive. We should be, and this is his final quote, we should be waking up our children, or we should be waking our children up to what they have inside of themselves. It's about engaging the creative self to inspire learning. So how do we do that? How do we make sure that we make that touch? And I suggest to us that part of what the strength of the arts is it allows that child to come out and speak with what needs to be said. It's an essential part of what we're doing. That's the end of my presentation. You get to participate. Because the one little problem that I noticed with Sir Ken Robinson's drawing at that point was he had a drawing of a guy watching the event and called that the aesthetic experience. And as much as I enjoy watching people do stuff, the more important thing is to be the creative person. So we're going to create today. And we just got through going through it's springtime in Montana, so we're going to recreate a rainstorm. Okay, so you need to put your stuff down. You're going to have a couple of instruments that you're all going to use. One is right here. Okay. One is right here. Okay. Very lightly. One is right here. And then one is, you have to work hard. That's supposed to be the thunder. Okay. So you ready? I'm not going to say any more. Let's create a rainstorm. You ready? Smell the ozone?
Thank you so much, John. Our next speaker is Dr. Stephen Gaskill. Dr. Stephen Gaskill is a University of Montana professor of exercise physiology and health and human performance.
That's enough. So
Okay.
I'm going to build on these two previous lectures because because they lead in perfectly what I'm going to talk about, which is physical activity. When we talk about physical activity, I'm going to just talk about water, which is like a brisk walk, vigorous, which is jogging. Think of it in terms of the arts, things that kids can do, just what John Combs was talking about. My daughter had him a number of years back. Absolutely loved it. So think in terms of what's going to inspire kids creatively. So I'm going to talk about how physical activity, but think movement. Don't think exercise, just having fun. See if this works? Yeah, that works. Starting way back in 2006, we measured activity on over 1,000 kids. We had grade point average and test scores on them and body composition stuff. And that data led to the Active 6 program in town that the YMCA is running in conjunction with a bunch of us, active recess projects. And starting next year, we're going to be working with a number of schools, trying to increase physical activity to improve how the brain works. And it's been known for a long time that there's a mind-body connection. 400 BC, Mensana and Kokoro Sano, sound body and a sound mind, something like that. But these guys are worried. They're really worried. We should be too. Because this is CDC data. You can't really see what's happening over there, but back in 1950, most Americans were getting somewhere around 400 minutes of moderate vigorous activity every week. And look what's happened. Less than 30 minutes. The guidelines for health are 30 minutes of being active like John Combs was. He just put in 10 minutes up here of being active. That's all you have to do. It's all I'm doing right now. I'm doing enough. So, elementary kids are doing pretty well. But I'm going to show you how kids go from here to here with our data from the schools. And this is Missoula data. Elementary kids are doing pretty well. You can see elementary kids, 150 minutes. Middle school kids, around 70 minutes. 95% of kids are meeting youth guidelines of 60 minutes a day. About 50% here in middle school. And by the time they're in high school down here, 60% of our students are getting recommended guidelines of physical activity. Less than 6% of the kids account for all of the vigorous activity. Kids aren't running anymore, period. So why am I concerned about that? Well, because it's associated with obesity and long-term health and chronic disease. Nobody cares about this because everybody thinks the kids are doing fine. But in reality, Americans, 66% of them are either overweight or obese right now. And if you look at the high school kids, 18% of high school kids are obese, 20% more are overweight, 40% almost of Missoula kids are at real risk. Why is this a problem? Well, it's costly. 1995, my references are down there, but Wolf said that it's about a $70 billion cost in medical costs. 2 days ago, the CDC came out with a report, $270 billion a year it's costing us for obesity and activity in this country. 2010, they said about $1 trillion for lost productivity. We need to get the kids doing more. And it isn't just running around, as Dr. Combs or John Combs is talking about. You should be Dr. Combs. Probably is way clarineting. It's wonderful. We don't know what the social costs are, but all of you know what the costs of being an active are and kids that are out of shape. Education costs, what I'm going to talk about just a little bit. We don't really know the actual cost. Why should we be working in the schools? And I'll tell you, there's a lot of benefits in the schools. I'll just put them up here. If you look at this group up here, improved behavior, ADHD, attendance, attention, yeah. Teachers want that. And it doesn't take very much, I guarantee you. But it has to happen, and we've been cutting back on physical activity in the schools. Not just PE, but on recess, on everything else that lets kids be creative and running around for the last 40, 50 years. Parents, teachers, and administrators worry about this. Nobody really worries about this. We all think our kids are doing fine. But it's youth onset of adult disease is what's happening in this country. So we need to think about this. And this is our data. It's brand new. You can't really see all of it, but I'll just walk you through it real briefly. It won't take long. This is elementary school data, high school data, and over here is, this is middle school data and high school data. And the white boxes are the quarter of students that are least active. The black boxes are most active from our measurements. What you see is the least active kids do less in math scores and in reading scores, and in grade point average. If you look at the grade point averages, it'll mean more to most people. 2.5 to almost 3.5, almost a full grade point difference in the less active and more active kids. Now, socioeconomic status has been a little bit accounted for here. We tried to look at grade and all sorts of other things. That doesn't mean if we increase physical activity from 5.2 minutes of vigorous to 14, that it's going to change, but it's going to do quite a bit, and there's a lot of research to suggest that. Get them having fun. Again, playing and creative. It isn't just, you got jumping jacks. You got to have fun doing this stuff. So here's what our current data says. Keep kids being active in schools, in-school data. Elementary school, we need to add about 10 minutes of vigorous physical activity a day. 10 minutes of running around. Middle school, we need to get from about 8 to 30 minutes to help with standardized tests, up to about 50 minutes for this group here, right there, to get up to here, and get them up to about 50 minutes to get them up to their grade point here. High school, 3 minutes for the lowest group. That's all they're doing. They're walking around the halls like this. It isn't even moderate. You go and look. We had 10 kids, 10 students over at Big Sky and Sentinel High School for a full week. They saw one kid doing anything that was above a moderate exercise. One kid that jogged home. It's scary. So we need to get kids moving. And it needs to be creative and fun like everybody's been saying. So why should we worry about in the schools or physical activity at all? And I can tell you, I've talked to Congress, it's an educational crisis, it's an economic crisis, we've talked about that. It's a military crisis, a security crisis, because the military can't find kids or youth that are fit enough, and it's a health crisis. But this is the one that I'm worried about right there, because that leads to everything else. And so what can we do about this? We all know. We need to be more creative. We need to get our kids back out playing. We need to get our kids being more active in the arts, in the visual arts, in the performing arts. All the research suggests, over 100 studies now, experimental studies say we can take an hour of academic time, give it to movement, and not one study has shown a decrement in academic performance. Not one study. 90% of them show an improved learning up here. So what we really need isn't people like me up here talking. We need clear and focused city, state, school. We need policy that says we will not let kids sit for more than 50 minutes to 60 minutes at a time without a 10-minute break. We need to figure out how to increase physical activity a little bit. I would say a lot, but a little bit. We need to change attitudes and beliefs among our parents, our school leaders, our city, state, national. And a lot of people are trying to do this, but what I would say is what Rick Hughes said this morning, we need to act now. Tomorrow is too late, because this is a crisis. Well, I'm not quite as fun as John. But this is my final statement. Exercise is truly medicine, not only for the body, which we've always thought about and don't know anything about, because 66% of American adults don't do anything. But we need to move Missoula. And we can make a difference here. If we can't make a difference in Missoula or in Montana, we can't make a difference anywhere in this country. Thanks.
How are you doing on time in here?
We're a little behind, but we're moving along.
All right.
Okay, real quick, this is Michael Lou. She's a Missoula County Public School teacher at Hellgate High School. She is also the coordinator of the Arabic Language and Culture program at Missoula County Public Schools, and she's been teaching Spanish for the past 19 years.
Good morning, everybody. As I go through these slides today, you're going to see some quotes. The quotes are from Arabic students, current Arabic students in Missoula. I won't read the quotes, but I want you to know where they come from. So today I'm going to tell you the story of how U of M and MCPS partnered to secure a FLOP grant to design and implement an Arabic language and culture program for Missoula's public schools. So the first question might be, what is a FLAP grant? FLAP stands for Foreign Language Assistance Program. FLAP grants were the only source of funding from the U.S. Department of Education earmarked solely for world language program development. I say were because earlier this year, Congress cut all continuing and future funding for FLAP and eliminated the program. This has affected us significantly because we are currently in the third year of a 5-year grant. But how did we come to get a FLAP grant in Montana to offer Arabic of all languages? In April of 2009, I believe Dr. Mirdad Kia approached Dr. Apostle and asked him if we would be interested in writing a FLAP grant with them to start offering Arabic in the schools. So I got a bunch of language educators from Missoula Public Schools together and said, how about it? And we said, well, it wouldn't hurt to try. And so we began a forensic month. Because if you've ever written any kind of a federal grant, you know they give you about 30 days from the time they post the grant until you have to submit it to get all the paperwork together. So we spent a month of meetings, writing, editing, rewriting, budgeting, rewriting, all of that with a group of us culminated in a FLAP grant that was submitted seconds before the deadline. Seconds before the deadline. The individuals involved from U of M were Otto Kester, Dr. Kia, Dr. Khaled Puthali, and Professor Samir Bittar, and Brian Lothing. From MCPS, it was Gail Becker, Becky Sorensen, Heidi Gross, Lisa Moser, Debbie Hendricks, and me. We represented all the 4 languages being taught in the schools at that time: Spanish, French, German, and Latin. So we felt that was a pretty good coverage. We were administrators, professors, and classroom teachers. This, of course, all occurred during May when everyone is being pulled in a million directions as the school year in both institutions comes to a close. And in spite of all the work, no one really imagined that Montana would be successful. We're isolated from the rest of the world. Why would we possibly be successful in getting a grant to offer Arabic here? So you can imagine our surprise and excitement when, in early September, we found out we were awarded a 5-year grant. Wow! Now we had to take everything that we'd written in the grant seriously. We had to say, okay, now how are we going to make all of this happen? So we had a joint press conference with the university. I was hired half-time as the coordinator for the program. And as with all big projects, we faced some challenges. Our biggest challenge was an error that was made in the original budget of the original application. And it could have destroyed everything. But through discussion and careful planning, we determined that the problem was not greater than the need to offer Arabic to our students. Another problem arose as we had to find a way to mesh the bureaucracy of U of M with the bureaucracy of MCPS. Pat knows all about that. But we found out later that this is pretty common when you try to have an institution of higher education work with the public school system. That is always an issue. As the planning year progressed, we also decided to apply successfully, as it turns out, to host a visiting exchange teacher from Egypt for the Languages program. This program is funded by the Bureau of Educational and Cultural Affairs of the United States Department of State and administered by American Councils for International Education. The program selects experienced teachers from Egypt and China to spend a year in a school in the U.S. to teach either Arabic or Chinese. In addition to teaching, they become ambassadors for their countries by making presentations to various groups in their host communities. After their year here, they return to share what they have learned with their colleagues at home. So after the planning year, our first courses in Arabic were offered in the fall of 2010. There were nearly 100 students enrolled in 5 classes in 2 high schools at Hellgate and Sentinel. We were fortunate to attract Jordanian native Fatih El-Heen as our teacher of Arabic. Fatih has a PhD in Islamic Studies from the University of Jordan and is in the process of completing some courses here at U of M so he can get a regular teaching certificate. Now he has an internship teaching certificate. That said, we are really proud of the fact that Fatih is the very first teacher to be certified in Arabic in the state of Montana. We work really closely with the Office of Public Instruction, and that cooperation has opened the path to offering even more languages in the future and getting teachers certified in other languages. One of the fears that was expressed by our world language teachers was, well, if we start offering Arabic, then students will take Arabic and stop taking the other classes we offer. We are really happy to say that the opposite was true. We have now more students studying a second language in our high schools than we ever had before. More than 50% of the students at Hellgate High School have signed up for a second language next year. So we're very excited about that. Many of the students currently enrolled in Arabic have stated that they plan to continue their studies at the higher education level. This benefits U of M's Arabic program as well. Students continuing their study of Arabic will have already developed a love of the language and will want to continue to develop greater proficiency during their post-secondary studies. By eliminating the need to take beginning Arabic, students will save time and money and be able to take additional courses when they get into university. And recently, U of M added Arabic, a minor in Arabic. So that will make this university more attractive to our students. They'll want to come here to continue their studies rather than trying to go somewhere else where a degree is actually offered. So what is the future of Arabic now that funding has been cut? That's an excellent question. We recently received approval from the U.S. Department of Education for a no-cost extension that will carry us through next year so we can use the funds in the grant that we have expended. Okay, and then we also successfully applied for a one-time school grant from the Qatar, maybe go back one, is it Qatar Foundation, International Qatar, the country. The Queen of Qatar is very interested in supporting Arabic programs in the United States. So we got a $25,000 grant. So the grant from the Qatar Foundation, along with our unexpended flat funds, will carry us through next year. We'll still have one more full year of Arabic in our schools. And in the meantime, it will be our job 2 years earlier to figure out a way to sustain Arabic, because if you read a few of those quotes, you can see that our students have really enjoyed taking Arabic. They love our Arabic teachers. They have discovered that Muslims put their pants on one leg at a time, just like all the rest of us. And so we're excited about it. Anyway, our superintendent is determined that we're going to keep it. The professors of Arabic here will do almost anything to help us keep it. So that's where we stand right now.
Our next presenter is Tracy Hardy. She is a teacher at Missoula County Public Schools in Cold Springs Elementary. She was born and raised in Missoula, Montana, and went on to pursue a music education degree from Montana State University with the intention of becoming a professional trumpet player. In 1995, she completed a master's degree in music with an emphasis in trumpet performance from Northwestern University in Chicago. After living in New York City for a while, she decided it was not for her and returned to Montana to teach, where we are lucky to have her teaching at Cold Springs. She also taught middle school general music and 5th grade band for 5 years. She currently teaches special education and started her current position in 2006. In her free time, she reads, plays the trumpets, and parents her many children who range in age from 5 to 25.
Hi. I had a novel experience at work the other day. It's rare for me to experience new things in my job, because sometimes I really think I've seen it all. But this particular day, I walked out into the parking lot to assist with a child in crisis, and I found a 4th grader sitting on top of her father's Suburban, refusing to come to school. So, that's a true story. How do you teach a kid on the roof? They really didn't cover that in any of my methods classes. So, in order to do it, we have to get on their roof. We have to reframe our interpretation of their behavior and redefine our version of success. You probably guessed by now that I don't work with typical kids. That the kids that I work with have generally been traumatized, abused, or neglected, and they've learned that the world's not a safe place, that adults can't be trusted, and that they must take care of themselves. Unfortunately, we're seeing more and more of these kids in all of our classrooms. When I first started in my job 6 years ago, I tried to implement the traditional point chart and level system. We think that we can use logic and train them into behaving like Pavlov's dog, because that is what they taught us in teacher school. I quickly discovered that the mostly traumatized kids, as well as some of our more typical kids, don't respond to behavior modification in the way that we hope or expect. Because when they get upset, it really makes sense for them to get on the roof. It's a pretty safe place to be. Dr. Bruce Perry, an expert in childhood trauma, said that the core of good teaching is attunement. That if a kid can't use their words, they will use behavior. This behavior signals to us that they are feeling afraid or anxious, that they don't trust themselves, the situation, or the adults in charge. So, as teachers, it's our job to figure out what a kid's behavior means and what they mean. I recently took a class called Place-Based Education. I went into it thinking that I might be able to use some of these concepts that outdoor education presented, but really, what would I want to do outside with a bunch of unruly kids? I came out of it with an entirely different mindset. Place-based education posits that kids learn better when they are connected to their learning. The kids learn better in their place, where things are meaningful and relevant. The place that our struggling kids need to learn more about is themselves. Then we can move out from there. I came up with this graphic to illustrate this concept. But first we need to learn about yourself, then my classroom, then the mainstream, then the school, then the community. So, Dr. Bruce Perry again said that the most important property of humankind is the capacity to form and maintain relationships. Well, how does this all help us teach the kid on growth, you're asking? So, my team uses 3 main strategies to manage my classroom, which really, at any given moment, has the potential to melt down like a damaged nuclear reactor. So, when a kid is tantruming, we don't send them to a traditional timeout away from us, we use a time in. We stay with them through their dysregulation, help them calm, and then return to the group. We build relationship. We use touch. In today's school climate, touch is frowned upon. But it's proven that touch is healing and it's needed to survive. So it would be a rare day for you to walk into my classroom and not see a kid being touched with a hand on the back or a head being rubbed, hands being held, and even kids sitting in our laps. Sometimes you might even see me holding a kid upside down by their ankles in an attempt to get them right to work. It works. We play with kids. We have time set aside every day that we focus on learning in our place. Playing with kids gives a chance for everybody. It gives everybody a break from the intensity of academics and a chance to just enjoy each other and play, have fun, and to build a relationship. So my team has used these 3 strategies of time in, touch, and play and incorporated them into every moment of our school day. We further integrated them when pushing kids out into my place-based education circles. We used adventures in the community that give kids experiences that are meaningful and relevant, while still working on the issues of self-awareness. We have gone to the police station, the fire department, the University of Montana, in a blizzard, and to a farm. We have swam, bowled, ice skated, explored Missoula businesses. We've been left behind by a mountain lion bus. We've raised rats, lots and lots of rats, and we've fed some of these rats to snakes. We've built relationships. So in between all these fun things that I've talked about, we have learned there has been measurable academic growth. I have one particular kiddo who's demonstrated his growth over the last 2 years. Last year it was a rare day for him to come to school to get any academic work at all done. He came to school and he raged, he ran away, he hid, he destroyed things. It was a successful day when he did get sent home. So this year we've seen improvements in his behavior. He started the year believing that he couldn't do anything. He didn't rage, he didn't hide very much. He didn't destroy things, he just didn't do anything. So he progressed from that doing nothing state to sometimes being willing to do his work in the quiet of the basement room, behind a mask, in a tent, or down on the floor. From there, he was willing to do his work in the classroom, under a table. From there, he was willing to sit at the table and do his work behind some cardboard armor that he created to defend himself from scary management. Little by little, we saw his defenses disappear, the cardboard armor went away, and he was willing to do his work seated at the table, rolling around on the floor crying between every problem. But lately, he gets his work, he sits down, he does it. As we continue to see him, or every step along this path of growth that we paved with, time in, touch and play, was a success. So as we continue to see him grow, trust and mature, I expect that he will move into the regular academic classroom and learn that. We had to get on his roof. We built relationship, and he let us help him down. Thanks.
Well, I would like to thank all of you for your time. We actually ended up right on time. We do have a 10-minute break. However, if there are any questions and answers that people would like to ask, feel free to do so, and we'll just keep you in the room for a minute, or if you'd like to, you're welcome to do that. At 10:50, we will reconvene in the ballroom for our final session. Any questions?
I have.
Yes.
What did you ask about Ask Missoula? How are you creative? How did you ask Missoula how they are creative? Like, what was your method of putting the question out there?
I kind of took a technological whisper. I did one show with Monty in the morning show and asked, and then we did one interview in the Missoulian, small, and then I had an interview with Peter Christian on the radio. That was it. And I was afraid to start with that we'd get nothing, but by the end of the deadline time, it was just starting to swell, and we wound up having to cut it off. But we had, so 75 was my kind of like my first year maximum number. But if I would have shouted this to Missoula, because it's a creative place. So, thank you.
Anyone else? Any other questions?
Is Michael still in the room? Oh, hi. I had a question for you about the Arabic in Montana. I'm so glad that you are bringing foreign languages into Montana. How did that idea come about for Arabic?
Well, it was actually the university Arabic professors saw the grant, but they needed a public school, local school to be the grant too.
Okay.
It's our grant in partnership with the university, but the public school had to be the grantee. So they needed us. So we wrote the grant and somehow we got it. So, but it's also the United States, the SCOT grants are for critical languages now, or were critical languages. Chinese is a critical language. We actually offer Chinese through the Confucius Institute here. So the Confucius Institute sends teachers into our district to teach Chinese. So we do have Chinese and Arabic along with German, French, Spanish, and Latin. So we're offering 6 languages at Hellgate right now.
And is that going to become more of a core element within the MCPS?
Well, that's what we world language teachers have always wished. We are the only pure elective right now. But we're working towards it, and I know that U of M is going to soon give some kind of preferential admission to students who have completed 2 years of one foreign language in high school. So that could work in our favor. And then finding funding to support Arabic, because I think it's the cultural aspect for our students more than anything else that has really served it in having Arabic. They've discovered that Muslims are not all terrorists.
Stephen, on your study on the high school students, the BMI data you gave, was that 20% of them were overweight and additionally 18% were obese? So that's 38%, which is above the national average.
I just have one other comment. If anybody is interested in the data, I do have a sheet up here that you can take, and I'm more than happy to come meet with groups of teachers at any school that would like ideas on how to creatively, or I want to say that, put physical activity back into your schools at a low cost or no cost. It takes some thought, but you can do it, and my contact information's on that paper right there.
I just have another quick question for you. We're teacher candidates, so we're seniors here at the U, and we just came out of our 400 block, and I was in a classroom in particular that kids miss recess a lot due to lack of time to get all of their schoolwork done. And so, I mean, it seems like, we have to meet all these standards and these benchmarks and this and that, and that is it's stressed so heavily on educators' shoulders that it's like there's no time. I'm a huge, I really believe in the physical, and so it's, how do you meet all your guidelines that you need without taking away the time that these kids, they've got to get out to recess, they've got to go to gym and have music class, but it's like time is that's what I learned. Time is my biggest enemy as a future teacher, because it's like there's never enough time in the day to do everything you need to do, let alone get the kids outside.
There's no easy answer to that. I mean, I've taught at the high school level, and when you're in a school, you get this idea that I need more contact time with the kids, and more contact time, the more I can do math or whatever in with them, and we get pulled into that. But all the research says that kids that aren't active, it's not going in as well, their attention is going downhill, performance is going downhill. So that's why one of my last statements is we actually need to have policy change that says, never go more than 15 minutes without an activity break. And that has to be actually required. And what you find is that kids accomplish much more during that time when they're in the classroom. They sit better, they listen better, they tend to task better. And then it was also said earlier, that lab activities, if you're moving around, you actually learn better. So it's a changing of paradigm so that we're opening up the brain to learning, and so the time you actually are teaching works better. But we have to get out of the box and think a little bit differently.
Well, and just one thing that I tried to incorporate when I was doing some of my teaching, I learned here from Karen Kaufman's, it was a dance class. Anyway, when I was teaching them math lessons, because we had an hour and 25-minute block for math, we stopped right in the middle of our math lesson every day, and we did a bunch of different stretching. We'd go up, go down, stretch this way, stretch that way, and it gave the kids just that 3 or 4 minutes to breathe and to not worry, and then they'd get a drink of water. And just that little amount would totally refocus them, and then we could work through the rest of our lesson until recess, and then also about that 15 minutes.
There's a huge movement now to add 10-minute breaks, 5-minute breaks into classrooms. A lot of them can actually be academics, doing math, doing movement, doing, using dances and all sorts of things, but just getting kids up and moving, and they settle down very quickly and move on.
Thank you. Sue, you had a question?
Well, I was just going to comment, I couldn't concur more. And you mentioned the stress on teachers, and the other elephant in the room is the stress we're putting on kids and getting their blood flowing. But then, why are we stressing them so much? Having that play integrated, that healthy relationship building environment, it helps them on so many levels. And that speaks to obesity and health and long-term health and happiness, and as well as their well-research supported learning improvements when they're rested and ready and refreshed.
Well, thank you. I am going to have to ask you all to go back to the ballroom now, so.
Thank you for joining us. My name is Nancy Mara, and I'll be the facilitator for this session. In this session, we'll be exploring 5 different avenues for building collaboration and creative capacity. I'll introduce each presenter or group of presenters and ask that you save your questions till the very end of all 5 presentations, and then we'll have a question and answer period. Presenters, thank you for sharing your time and talent with us today. We appreciate that very much. As a helpful reminder, there will be an iPad up here with a timer on it, a big giant timer, and that you can start it then at the beginning, because we will try our best to adhere to the 8 minutes. Then, as I say, at the end of 8 minutes, I'll give you a 1-minute warning as you start getting close so you can see what your time looks like. And then at the end of 8 minutes, we'll give you a big round of applause, and onward we go to the next presentation. And at the end, the questions and answers. I'll introduce each presenter. And so we'll go ahead and begin now. Our first presentation is called Co-Teaching, Avoiding the Clash of the Titans. And that's going to be with Lisa Waller and Jessica Stamler. Jessica, Jessica is a graduate student at the University of Montana and is currently finishing her Master of Education in Curriculum and Instruction with a concentration in secondary English. She moved to Montana 5 years ago after earning a bachelor's in American Studies from Northwestern University. She has been privileged to complete her practicum at Willard Alternative High School here in Missoula, a learning program renowned for innovation and student support. She is currently working on analyzing Missoula County's Indian Education for All annual reports as her professional project. Next fall, she will be working in Cantabria, Spain, as a Fulbright English teaching assistant. Co-presenting with Jessica is Lisa Waller. Lisa teaches English at Willard Alternative High School. She has a BA in elementary education and secondary English education and an MAT in English. She has been Jessica's cooperating teacher this year. Please join me in welcoming Jessica and Lisa as our presenters.
Wherever you suggest, I'm good. Co-teacher. So, I guess I'll get started. I was lucky enough to be a teacher candidate at Willard Alternative High School with Lisa this past semester, and it was amazing. But I was nervous because I've heard horror stories from teacher candidates before. Not necessarily horror stories, but when people are in a not ideal situation, I guess. So Lisa might talk a little bit about the pitfalls of some of the traditional student teaching teacher candidate models.
Sure. How many people are teachers in the audience? Makes sense, right? Right. Okay. So, if you've ever had a teacher candidate, you've probably, I'm guessing with the traditional model, had a lot of time out of your room. And so, what's the next slide? Yeah, okay. This is Jessica's little dorky sense of humor, which I love. Good for more than just bathroom breaks. So, a lot of times, from my experience, people take teacher candidates and they're thinking, okay, cool, I can get that, filing done that I've been meaning to do. I can finish my thesis, whatever. I don't think that there's a lot of co-teaching in traditional teacher candidacy program until now. I think the model is an excellent one. I've had student teachers where teacher candidates, excuse me, where they wanted more input and time, and then some who were happy to have me out of the room. But when we started talking about it, it's such a better model to do the co-teaching for students and for the teacher candidates. So we're going to talk about how ours was a little successful.
Yeah, so we started, Lisa was able to attend a workshop on co-teaching at the University of Montana. So there are the 7 strategies for co-teaching. We're going to go into a little bit more detail about a few of them that we used with great success. But building on that, we thought there are, aside from the 7 strategies, 3 major things that you can do recursively, continuously, essentially every day to ensure that you get a positive experience out of co-teaching. This is what worked for us. There may be other steps for other people, but basically start with aligning our philosophies, capitalizing on the differences between our philosophies, and communicating constantly. So these are, this crazy Venn rectangle is a diagram of our 2 teaching philosophies.
Yeah, so we liked this title, Philosophies Aligned-ish. You're probably going to meet someone, even your own kindred spirit, who may not have exact philosophies. But we had the things that were important to us overlapping, that were, okay, this is enough, that we have similar, the basic things that we care about. So we had the intrinsic motivation, helping students have the possibility of really directing themselves. We really love what we teach. We're kind to people, and we believe teachers are a facilitator. And so those important things lined up. We also spent some time talking about our differences. Not only, like Jessica's going to go into differences here in a minute, like she said, capitalizing on them. But we really did have some significant differences, and when you're working with someone in the classroom, you need to take time to know that about the person and be able to come to, some agreement and benefit from the differences. So.
Yeah, so, and again, I like threes. There are three major ways that we think you can capitalize on differences, or at least that we did. I think the first two tend to naturally happen. Obviously, when you have two different sets of interests, or 3 or 5, however many co-teachers you have, however many sets of different interests you can bring into the classroom, that's more content that you can draw on for the students, and that's always a positive thing. Same thing with expertise. So if you have two different people coming at different skill sets, so we were teaching, among the classes that we were teaching were poetry and journalism. I come from more of a journalism background, so I was bringing that, minute content knowledge, and Lisa is much stronger at poetry. She's actually the advisor to the State Poetry Out Loud champion, who's competing next week in Washington, D.C. That's exciting. So for us to be able to draw on that for each other, obviously, and for the students, it's just an enormous pool of expertise that we wouldn't have had if it was just one person. But where it gets difficult is divergent ideas about curriculum. And we actually have this, I wouldn't say necessarily a lot, but every now and again. So what we did when that happened, and it's mostly in terms of high expectations and challenge, not to say that Lisa isn't, but I insisted on teaching Edom and Shakespeare during, what was my 6th week of teaching ever. Interesting decision, Jessica, but Lisa's much more student-directed, and in terms of student choice and really having students decide what direction we're taking in. So those two things, you could see a clash there. What we had was the ability to go back to this core and say, well, these are the things we agree on because we had set that. And then move from there, with me taking into account, well, okay, like this is important to Lisa, and this is the classroom we have, the student interest. So how can I work that into what I was thinking of doing? And we, I think, got a lot of much richer ideas than we would have otherwise. But
yeah, well, and I had to be respectful of what Jessica wanted from her teacher candidacy as well. And I, even in giving her the suggestion, I'm like, I probably wouldn't do that. I still let her decide what she was going to do. If she wanted to do the Shakespeare Tempest very, very much. And so, I gave her that flexibility. Because I could have, as the teacher, just said, no, you're not doing that here. But that wouldn't really be appreciating what she wanted to try. And I really believe in, if you go back to the Venn diagram, I really believe in letting people learn from their own experiences. Because you can tell people everything under the sun. You're going to do this, you're going to do this, no, you shouldn't do this. This is why, I've experienced it, I know. And most people want to learn from doing their own thing and reflecting. And that's the same thing with the students. That's why I'm so strongly into feeling like it's student-directed and letting them experience instead of just telling them everything up front. I was the same way with Jessica wanting to try Shakespeare at Willard. So, and they ended up getting a lot of really cool stuff from that. Again, like Jessica said earlier, communication is key, and communicating often. We did get to know each other, and that means, I was picking her up in the morning, getting her to school. We built a relationship that wasn't just about, I'll see you at 8, we're done at 3, and so we had a connection, and we knew each other. We talked about the objectives, right? And so we talked about lessons. If you really need to know what the person's teaching, if you're in the room with them and you're complimenting the lesson, you don't want to jump in. If you don't know the objectives, you don't want to jump in, which did happen a couple times, and Jessica might have been like, well, actually. So the communication before you do lessons is important too, so you don't seem like you're dividing anything or taking away from the other person. And then just other things that we communicated regularly, and that including the students in our communication was a very important piece
piece of communicating. It's not just about communicating between the teacher candidate and the teacher, it's also the students, so communication, very important.
Yeah, there were times probably we did lose track of that, but it's like, oh wait, there are 15 other people in the room with great ideas.
Well, and then it became stressful at times if you don't communicate.
Yeah. So really quickly, the two strategies, we're almost out of time, but the two strategies that we did the most and had the most luck with, sorry, we should hold this up, this little square. Oh, the wheel required. So we did a lot of, one of the 7 strategies that we had a lot of luck with was station teaching. So when students have already chosen their stories and their genres and their content that they're going to write about, we would take, 3 students, 4 students, do opinion editorial in one corner, news in the other one. And, Willard already has really small class sizes, but when you get 3 people that are writing for an authentic audience with a teacher focused on them for a full hour, it's amazing improvement in writing skills. I was flabbergasted.
It's wonderful. It is such a help if you use it for co-teaching instead of, hey, I'm out of here and you're going to sink or swim. Yeah, it's amazing. And we didn't have time. We used another one teach, one assist. There were 7, co-teaching things we learned from the lessons. And so we did this one quite a bit too. It was great.
Yeah. We should have a classroom volunteer, Ben Adams.
Oh, you did.
And so it's basically one teach, 2 assist. So intensive, again, hour-long, one-on-one coaching with students, and these are their portfolios. Found my voice is one of my favorites. So yeah, when we worked on that, so aligning our philosophies to find where we had common ground, capitalizing on those differences to get richer ideas, and communicating constantly, we had a great semester. So we'll leave you with a message.
Oh yeah, we were able to teach ukulele together.
Be the change. Be the transformation. Thank you.
That was great. So co-teaching is something that quite a few universities and colleges with teacher education programs are using as a model to integrate teacher candidates into the classroom. And as Lisa was saying, lots of times people would look at that as a time where I could go be doing this. Well, lo and behold, research shows that if you keep 2 people in the classroom, students learn more. So I'm so glad to hear that that works so well for you. Thank you for a great presentation. Our next part is about an open course, a digital response to mathematics challenge. And our presenters are Dr. Robert Curry, Jason Neifer, and Kai Nettel. Is that correct? Nettle. Robert Curry is the Executive Director of the Montana Digital Academy, Montana's statewide online program housed at the University of Montana. MTDA has served over 10,000 online student enrollments since beginning operation in 2010-11. Prior to starting MTDA, Robert was the Executive Director of the Michigan Virtual School and held numerous positions in K-12 education, including Superintendent of Schools, Assistant Superintendent for Instruction, High School Principal, Assistant Principal, and Guidance Counselor. Jason Neifer, where is Jason? Okay. He is the first Curriculum Director of the Montana Digital Academy, Montana's publicly supported online K-12 school. Created and funded by the 2009 Montana Legislature, the MTDA is the most aggressive effort to date to provide Big Sky Country with flexible, high-quality online schooling programs for K-12 students. Jason is the leading effort, utilizing Montana teachers to deliver over 50 courses to Montana high school students this fall. Previously, Jason spent most of his career teaching in Montana high schools, spending 13 years teaching social studies, speech and debate, and computer science at both Capital High School and Great Falls High School. Jason is a Montana native, a graduate of Carroll College and Walden University, and he is currently a doctoral student at the University of Montana, studying educational technology and curriculum and instruction. And I believe, Dr. Curry, that you're going to introduce Kai?
Sure. The bios count in our 8 minutes. minutes? No. Good. Because I would have just said, hi, I'm Bob.
Yeah.
While Jason's getting set up, I want to introduce two people to you. Both Kai and Robin Nuttall are here. And Robin's not on the program, and that's my fault because
I was going to kind of hide out.
at the very first organizational meeting, they said, she may not be available. So that's what happened. And Kai teaches algebra as well, so they're called Team Nuttall by Jason. And we're really pleased to have them because not only are they outstanding teachers for the Digital Academy, but they're outstanding teachers here in Missoula. And I think that's really great. I'm just going to say one more thing. We have over 100 Montana licensed teachers that work our program. Every teacher in the program holds a Montana license and has a relationship with a school district, an employment relationship. We're proud of that, but we're mostly proud about what they bring to this program. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jason.
Thanks, Bob. I'm going to be very brief in kind of describing the Algebra 1 course that we teach at MTDA, and I think that the best experts, which are actually Kai and Robin, can talk to you a little bit more about what teaching this environment looks like. But one of the greatest challenges to teaching online mathematics courses is that students are really used to a more proactive is not really the right word, but more hands-on learning environment for mathematics. And there's actually a term that a couple of curriculum directors in online learning use called inking, that one of the greatest things about math is having a piece of paper in front of you and playing out a problem set on a piece of paper, which is a very difficult thing to achieve in an online course. And so over the last 25 years, as particularly high school mathematics instruction has moved online to provide students opportunities to take courses online, there's been a number of different approaches to attempt, for lack of a better way of putting it, of creating an interactive environment for students to learn mathematics and feel like they're successful in that particular area. If you put a number of teachers in any room, superintendents, principals, curriculum directors, everyone will tell you that math is a huge problem, not just from the standpoint of standardized testing and No Child Left Behind, and then now the Common Core standards, but in general, student mathematics achievement's been going down over time, which means we need to do something about that approach to get students interested in mathematics and have them have an interactive environment, particularly in the online realm. So we're a member of something called the National Repository of Online Courses, or NROC. And NROC is a nonprofit in California whose mission is to create digitally rich online courses in kind of an open education format. What I mean by that is that the resources they create are released to the community with something called a Creative Commons license. That means any teacher can take those materials, point students towards them, and they're free for them to use. So as a governing member of NROC and as a paying member of this organization, we help, along with foundation money, develop courses like Algebra 1 and Open Course. And this is kind of an example of what this course looks like. It's very media rich. It has a lot of interactivity with students, and it utilizes some of the best practices that we know about getting students engaged in the actual content and the interaction of a mathematics course. Every piece of the course is very media heavy. There's a lot of wonderful small bits that are kind of like lectures, but are a little more finely tuned to be engaging to the students that might end up in an Algebra 1 course. There's a series of examples. You may have heard of Solomon Kahn, who runs the Khan Academy, very big buzzword right now in education. His example sets are built into the course itself. And for students that want to choose a more traditional route, the course actually comes with a textbook as well. So students can choose different paths to learning the information. If you want a more media-rich piece, you can certainly do the videos and the practice pieces. If you want more of a chalkboard approach, you can look at the worked-out examples. Or if you what you really want to do is sit down and read information about the course, you can bring up the textbook and use the course that way. So Robin Nuttall has been the lead teacher of Algebra 1 since the beginning. She's actually seen a transition from our old algebra course, which was also NROC-based, to the new course. And this past year, we're very excited that Kai has joined us, and they make up our Algebra 1 team. And the best part about this is that we do joke about Team Nuttall being in charge of Algebra 1, but talking about what Jessica was talking about earlier about collaboration, this is about as good as it gets, because they have lots of access to each other. We can talk about the pieces of the course. So I'm going to hand it over to them and have them talk a little bit about their experiences of teaching this kind of media-rich environment, which does kind of challenge some of the traditional notions of the way we've taught mathematics to students, particularly in the online environment, but I think broadly in K-12 education. So, Robin,
All right, I can't talk as fast as Susan, but I can come close. One of the things that I think is really beautiful about teaching in an online format is that our students have that ability to change the way they learn. So a student who typically would need a textbook and the teacher presentation and the project and an assessment and this and this and this and this to get that learning, they have the ability to do that in here. Jason, can I go back to that?
Yes, absolutely.
Oops, apparently not.
Here,
But on our first front page of our course right here where he just was, notice there's a lot of different, oops, one more, back to this one.
Got it.
Oh yeah. There's a lot of different options for how a student can learn something. If it's an advanced student, some of our students that are taking our algebra course right now are 8th graders or 7th graders and they don't have access to a highly qualified math teacher. So to do an algebra course, they take a course through online and they're able to, as a middle school student, have an advanced course. Those kids often watch the presentation and then jump right to the review and then they take the test. They're done in 30 minutes and they've proved that they've mastered it. Another student who's struggling a little bit more with algebra is probably going to watch that presentation 2 or 3 times. They're maybe going to try the worked examples. Then they're going to send us an email and say, I need another example. We're going to make a video for them, send them a video, and then share with each other so that we don't have to make 2 of them. And then that kid's going to go through the practice. They're going to call us back up, say, I got stuck on number 4. How do I do number 4? So that kid might take 30, that's not where I was going. That kid might take 3 hours to take that same section that it took the other kid 15 minutes for, but it gives that flexibility for how students kind of walk through this process. And when I first began, I thought, well, geez, this is easy, it's already done for me. And I'm actually finding that it's a little bit harder because I have to find a better way to connect with kids. Anything else?
It's hard to follow her always. So what I want to say is I like the access piece that teaching online gives. You take Montana, the 4th largest state, you have the 6th smallest population, so that means you're stretching teachers a long ways. I never knew where Webo, Montana was. I've got students from Webo, Knoxon, Lodge Grass, is that a place? No, I'm not sure because I've been in Montana for 5 years. But being able to get kids information or the skills that they were otherwise wouldn't have gotten is, to me, the powerful part about this. So.
And I think being Team Nettle, we also had that ability to let Lisa and Jessica having that ability to collaborate. Our collaboration happens a little bit more with the dinner table or at 10 o'clock at night when he says, wow, did your kids take that test the same way mine did? And oh yeah, we got to change that. We got to change the way that that test is set up or change some of the problem sets beforehand. And so because we're married and we have that ability to have that tight collaboration at home, it does add an extra dynamic to the course that we wouldn't have if I was teaching with another teacher, say in like Kalispell, and we had to email back and forth about the practice that was happening.
What's really special about these particular materials, I do want to note, if I could hire husband-wife teams for every one of my courses. But one of the things that's really important about these materials is that this is not the traditional textbook model. So there's not a series of expensive textbook resources that we purchase, and it's an all-online course that's available in an open licensing format, which means that any teacher can really point students to these resources and adapt and provide that flexible environment that Robin is talking about. And so we're really big fans of open education resources at MTDA. It's helping us expand much larger than our initial intention, but it also, I think, creates a model to where we can expand very quickly but still provide high quality resources for students that meet the students where they're at in their particular learning needs.
And all I would throw into that, there's a lot more information. Please contact us if you'd like more information. What the success rate of our students, of those 10,000 enrollments that Nancy mentioned in the intro, has been phenomenal. Across the board, full program, 76% of those students are getting passing grades, 83% in programs that are like algebra, U.S. history. The others are credit recovery that kind of blend into that. So thank you, Team Nettle, for being part of this today.
Is there anyone here that's the first time you've heard a presentation by the Montana Digital Academy? Good, it's exciting thing. Well, and I don't know why Robin might not have been here, but I'm glad that you were able to be here.
Barely made it.
And best wishes to Team Nuttall all the way across the board. Good, thank you. Our next presentation is session 3, and this one is the Confucius Institute at the University of Montana, introducing Chinese language and culture instruction to high school students in Missoula and across the state. And our presenter is Otto Kessler. Did I say your last name correctly? Kessler. Mr. Kessler is a former Peace Corps volunteer and specialist in international negotiation. He has more than 30 years' experience in international higher education and research administration in the United States and abroad. Before coming to Montana, he served as Deputy Director of Salzburg Global Seminar, Assistant Director of the Hubert Humphrey Fellowship Program, and at the United States Institute of Peace in Washington, D.C., and has just lectured at universities in Africa, Europe, and China. In his present position as Associate Director of the Maureen and Mike Mansfield Center, he directs the Confucius Institute at the University of Montana. Welcome.
I got a little stick here. I hope this doesn't count towards my...
It doesn't.
Thank you very much. Let me try and get this hold up. Where is the computer? Oh, here it is. Okay. Thank you very much. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk with you. A little bit about the Confucius Institute. As an example, I don't know, are all of you teachers? Maybe some of you are also, I was thinking maybe in the business sector or the community or something like that. So my presentation isn't geared strictly only to teachers, but really to try to tell you the story, I think, of how we have tried to introduce Chinese language instruction into the state of Montana. As an example of, from our perspective, of something that we think is innovative, how does one go about introducing something like that to Montana, and to sort of, I think, I hope that what will come through is, as I was listening to the presentations this morning, that we experience a lot and are dealing with many of the things that have been talking about in the panels this morning. So, we call it just simply the Confucius Institute. I'll explain further what it is as an innovative partnership for teaching Chinese. So, CIUM at Montana, that's Confucius Institute at the University of Montana, it's in Montana. We think it's innovative in the sense that it's the first effort that we know of trying to introduce Chinese into the Montana K-12 educational system. It's, as far as we know, also the first time that there is really an effort being made to put a number of different partners together in a way that involves both Montana organizations and agencies as well as foreign partners in order to introduce a foreign language, a new one, into the Montana state education system. And then the third one, of course, is the use of technology in order to do so. First of all, what's the Confucius Institute? How many of you have heard of it? Okay. It's a worldwide initiative of which we are one of 354 right now around the world. 74 Confucius Institutes in the United States, only one in Montana. You'll see that most of them are in more populous states and in large urban areas. We're the one that, in fact, are being sort of recognized nationally as an example of how to introduce a new Chinese language instruction into a really rural state. In other words, where there aren't high population centers like Los Angeles or San Francisco, where there are large populations of ethnic Chinese or Asians or something like that. So we have a different set of issues to deal with and trying to do it in working in the context of a state like Montana. The Confucius Institutes were initiated by the Office of Chinese Language Council Instruction. They're called Hanban. It's part of the Ministry of Education of the government of China. And the purpose is to promote and teach Chinese language and culture abroad. So it's really very similar to efforts like Alliance Française, the British Council, Goethe Institute, a United States Information Agency abroad, all of which at some point along the line, once governments become more of a player on the world stage, they begin to say, well, we also want to promote language and culture so that other cultures understand us better. The unique thing about the Chinese initiative, the Confucius Institute, is that were in contrast to these other organizations that they are centralized, they produce and replicate their same programs in every single country and context and so forth. The Chinese initiative and the Confucius Institute that is they say, no, what we want to do is develop local partnerships with local organizations so that they then develop a plan that meets sort of the local context, local needs and so forth around the world, or in their particular environment. So what have we done here in terms of the partners that we have for the Confucius Institute to make this go? The key organization is the Mansfield Center here at the university. Then there's Hanban, the Chinese Ministry of Education. Then the Missoula County Public School System. Crucially, the Montana Digital Academy, and I'm really glad that both of you are here, Jason and Bob, because they play a major role in what we do. Then also partners, private schools. For example, we teach Chinese at Loyola High School here now. We're open to teaching also in both public school systems as well as the private ones. And we're also going now into elementary schools to help them to provide Chinese instruction, language and culture, also in the elementary level. The partnership involving all of these different partners, here are their logos below. There is an executive council, which is chaired by Royce Engstrom, our president, and other people here whose names you'll recognize, Sheila Starnes, Tony Rahine, who is the chair of the Missoula County Public School System, and so forth. So, what are some of the activities then that we do? So note that before the Confucius Institute, which was created in 2008-9, there was no Chinese in any public high school in the state of Montana. And I've learned in the meantime that Chinese was tried once in the class experimentally at a private school in Kalispell. So since starting, we've managed to enroll a total of 354 students in various Chinese courses. And here's the breakdown. We start for each year. You'll see that we start level 1 the first year, level 1 and 2 the second year, continuing with level 1 and 2 in the third year, plus with thanks to the Digital Academy, try an experimental middle school program with the sampler foreign language programs with Chinese as part of the company. How's my time? Fine? Okay. So as a strategy for introducing it to the state, we are pursuing a twofold one. One is to offer face-to-face instruction online, on site, and we're doing this here in Missoula because the Chinese teachers that come to us, whose salaries are paid by Hanban, they reside here in Missoula. We have 3 or 4 teachers here, so we're doing face-to-face in-classroom instruction in Missoula, and then statewide, as part of our mission, since we're the only institute in the state of Montana, that working with the Montana Digital Academy in order to provide online instruction, and we've had over the years and thus far students from Billings and the various high schools across the state. here, am I repeating here? So here's an example then, this is a photo, I think this is in Hellgate High School here. Here locally, we're in Hellgate High School and in Central High School. We started initially in Big Sky. It didn't work that well, but we're going back into Big Sky again, beginning in the fall of this coming fall. And then we will also we started this year, at the beginning of this year for the first time in the private high school in Loyola here. And we're looking forward then to other universities, high schools also starting. How much time do I have left? That's it, total? Well, if I can just go give me 1 second if I might. What are our priorities for the coming years? Just so you see what the plans are. First of all, we obviously want to increase enrollments and expand to get into other high schools. We want to add, as enrollments warrant, we want to add years 3 and 4 because we think of ourselves as being in this continuum of the K through 16 environment. So we want to work more closely with the university, that the students who go through the high school Chinese language, that they can then continue on and so forth. One of the key things is that according to the arrangement with Kanban, they want to reduce their financial commitment slowly over the years, and for local states and schools to begin to take up some of the financial responsibilities beginning around 2015. Just brief concluding thoughts. I want to point out we sometimes run into the issue of, well, this is Chinese government funded, they're involved, are they influencing us? We haven't had no experience, we have seen no noticeable interference from foreign partners. They're letting us do what we want. Secondly, this is a learning process, we're starting something new. We've had to change, we've had to adapt every year. At first we started out offering it as a dual credit option, both high school and college. That didn't work. We had to change that. And as Jason can comment even better than I can, we have to adapt significantly how we're going to present this, especially online. Some of the text materials don't work because of incompatibilities and differences in technologies in different schools, different stages, different software. So we're continually working with that, and that's a major challenge. And the others are just sort of general lessons. We think it's worthwhile, we think it's important, and we're persistent, and we're going to continue doing it. Thanks.
Very good, thank you, Otto. Our next session, session 4, is called Standing in the Sunshine. Two presenters, Jennifer Fowler and Sean Kesey. As a staff member at the University of Montana for the past 14 years, Jennifer Fowler supervises the introductory physics instructional laboratories. Additionally, she has been director of Borealis for the past 8 years, a Montana Space Grant Consortium program. This work involves flying experiments on a high-altitude balloon to approximately 90 kilometers above the Earth with middle school students, mentored by undergraduates. Borealis was started in 2011, one involving a collaboration with Salish Kootenai College. Sean was born near Green Bay, Wisconsin. After completing his undergraduate degree in biology and ecology, he moved to Oregon, where he worked as a research biologist for 6 years. He returned to Wisconsin and received his degree in education, and has moved to Montana, where he is a science teacher at Bonner School. So welcome here to Sean and Jennifer.
Yes, co-presenting with us is Paige. This is Paige. She's a little soft-spoken, so don't take it offensively. She doesn't say a whole lot. While Jennifer's getting things loaded up, I'm Sean Keke. I teach Bonner Middle School Science, and I've been doing that for about 8 years. And we've had the pleasure to work with Jennifer Fowler on this project that I'm going to talk to you about.
Yep.
There it is, okay.
And I have to put the disclaimer out there that if I'm hearing strange noises or or funny smell in the room, that's my fault. Mom is a teacher as well, and so she took her leave, and so now I'm leaving myself. So, Dr. Dad.
Thank you for coming today. We're talking about this collaboration that we started back in 2006. And this is a picture actually of Sean's students chasing one of our balloons that we put up.
Yeah, it's a little bit difficult to see, but there's a gaggle of 6th grade kids chasing this giant weather balloon that they've just created over the last couple of weeks. And we'll get to the technology that they use, but it was really neat. We let this weather balloon go that's going to soar up to 18,000 feet, and 6th graders invariably run after it.
And when this started, we had no idea where this was going to go. We worked with a company, Anisphere, out of Bozeman. So part of this was that we had some freedom to fail. And the Space Grant has been very supportive of projects that we can start and see what happens. We have students involved, and the idea is to just take the risk. Go ahead and try the project. And we didn't know where this would end up, and this slide is actually current status of the project. This helium tank, I want to point out right here, is waiting for me right now down in the Colombian Amazon as we continue to fly some Amazons down there. So truly had no idea where this project would take off, and it's gone in many different facets.
She's leaving for Colombia today. So yeah, never with my class, it was kind of in its infancy, but when it took off and it's gone to South America. So.
It's been fun. And this started with Borealis partially, is we go to about 100,000 feet on high-altitude balloons. And this is a picture actually from our balloon. And it involves undergraduates, high school students, and middle school students. And one of the issues that came up is this picture over here is actually our high-altitude payload. So we track the balloon, we fly it, track it, go pick it up, get all our data. And one of the issues, as Sean will attest, is the effort that goes into flying one of those and how many students we can really have with us. It's limited.
Yeah, when we did Borealis, we launched this huge payload, and it goes up to the edge of space, which is really cool. But it was a full day effort. We started at 6 a.m. We got done at maybe 7 p.m. that night with lots of driving, lots of hiking, tracking this balloon down. Really cool data set. And so when we thought about it on a middle school level, a 6th grade level, we said, we need something that's a little more user-friendly as far as like we can do this in an afternoon. We can do this in an hour or two. So that's where the development of the Amazon
And we have a couple up here if we have time, if anyone wants to see them. And so the Amazon started in 2005 actually. And where it is now, the company, actually we use it for educational purposes, but the company has actually developed a system called Smart Tether. It's the only one on the market right now, and they pretty much have the US market, they're working on international market, and the development started with the Amazon. Most of these little modules that you fly on a tethered balloon constantly take in real-time data. And all those systems, the basis of those are this Amazon development.
So these are some of my students getting prepared to launch one of the smaller units that collects data on temperature, humidity, and pressure. And what's really cool to me about this is that they built this. And so when you look at the little circuit boards, they soldered every little tiny piece together. They built it knowing exactly what they were going to collect. And they're going out and collecting real-time data on their own. So it's really, really neat. But yeah, so side story, one of the balloons we have, we always put a little tag on it. So on our school, for our address, And we had one that must have not been inflated enough, but it hit neutral buoyancy and just went. And I got a call maybe a month later from this lady in Minnesota. Hey, we found your stuff. I was like, oh, cool. So.
And where we went from here is Sean actually worked on a master's degree with
Yeah.
curriculum.
Yeah, so this was part of my master's program, and I was exploring whether or not, using a piece of technology like this could impact student learning. And so I compared two different groups, one year to the next, a group that we used the Amazon with when we had the grant money that funded this, and then the next year where we didn't. And what was really interesting to me is that student perception of learning, student engagement measured is statistically much, much higher. And that, to me, said a lot. Students were really, the same content, the same curriculum, but they were experiencing it in a very different way than just learning about it very didactically. So, to me, that said a lot.
And this, over the years, is a sample of some of the different projects that the Amazon has been employed in. So in the Amazon, it was actually some climate studies that are ongoing. And partially, the Amazon has been stuck on a lot of tethers, both for boundary layer studies of the atmosphere as well as fire. We actually stuck a camera on it once. Balloons tend to not be very good on fires, they pump. They never working on that. And then our high altitude studies. We continue to fly different types of Amazons on the balloon. And the company continues to work with us and provide quite a bit of customer support that's fantastic. And they come, they talk to our undergraduates, they'll talk to middle school students, they'll talk to high school students. And it's been a nice collaboration that the students get to see exactly what they're learning, how that translates into a business, and where they could possibly go in the future.
And likewise, it's been a really cool merger between public school, private business, and the university for me. And it gave my students opportunities that they wouldn't have had otherwise. So without that networking and that collaboration, we wouldn't have been able to.
And we just want to acknowledge the participants that have helped us, and we thank you.
Exciting information. Our fifth and final session is the importance of technology education in elementary school. And this is presented by Casey Dernberger. Casey is currently teaching computer applications business to grades 6th, 7th, and 8th at Meadow Hill Middle School. She has a BA from the University of Montana in elementary education, a master's degree in technology education from Lesley University, and has business information technology education endorsements from the University of Montana. She has taught for 12 years in many school districts and at all ages. Casey teaches many technology workshops to teachers as well as at the Adult Education Learning Center, so we can still learn too. Casey.
I have a TED Talk later, and so I need to keep it at 6 minutes, and I don't want to practice going over. So, most of us here are microwave natives. We have grown up with microwaves. We have never lived without the microwave. So, we should be microwave chefs. No? Not me. I can make popcorn with that popcorn button, and I can reheat my food. How is it that I've grown up with a microwave my entire life, and I can only do 2 things with that microwave? That's ridiculous. Well, our students, are digital natives. They have grown up with iPods, iPads, everythings, tablets, Wiis, Xboxes, you name it, smartphones. Technology surrounds our students. So they should be digital chefs. No. They can do two things proficiently by the time they get to me, and that's play games and use social media. How is that possible? That they have grown up in this world and they can only do those two things proficiently? Well, current practices in Missoula County Public Schools has us standard weaving into the curriculum. So all of our teachers are now tech teachers. Does it work? Sometimes. Does it not work? Sometimes. Depends. We have librarians are our media experts. They help both our staff and our students. They're great resources. Does it always work? Sometimes, sometimes not. We have formal technology education at the middle school, and that is what I do. Does it always work? No. But most of the time, we get most of the kids by high school to be proficient in technology. So our barriers of our current practices: time. Our teachers in the room all know time is always our issue. Technology tends to be time consuming. Our teachers assume our students come in with a technology background. They're digital natives. They already know how to run these programs. No, they don't. So teachers are spending time teaching the programs instead of doing the projects. Computer accessibility, always a big issue. We don't have enough computers in our schools, right? That computer lab is now tied up with MAPS testing, 7th grade writing assessment, and in 2014, the CRTs will go online. Our school has one lab other than mine. And I'm telling you, to get into it when it's not testing is a miracle. And when you do get in there, it's precious moments you don't want to spend teaching the students how to use the applications. My son said this just the other day. He looks at me as we were on spring break actually, and we were doing a project on Lulu. He is a poet. He is publishing his own work, and he's going to become a millionaire, in his words. And as we were leaving the house after producing some of his pages on Lulu, he said this: "I am so glad to have a computer teacher mom." And I looked at him and I said, "You don't have a computer teacher, sweetie. You're only in 3rd grade." He goes, "Well, no, I don't have a computer teacher. I have you." And that hit home, that my 3rd grade son already sees a need to have a computer teacher at school, but luckily he has me. Not all kids have a computer teacher mom. It amazes me that students are willing to try almost anything. They'll do these kinds of things. Things we would never imagine doing. But when they hit 7th grade and they come into my class, it's mass terror when they see the protection screen come up. They start screaming. They can't even raise their hand, they're so scared. "Ms. Sternberger, what do I do?" Oh, you just click that button. You would think the world was ending. Why can they try all these things, but a simple protection bar is the most frightening thing in the world to them? They're digital natives. When I tell them to click on the desktop icon to open up their word processor, that is what they hear. And I often refer to that. Am I speaking Japanese? You're in 7th grade. You're a digital native. This should be old school to you. But they don't know computer vocabulary by 7th grade. Keyboarding skills. My 6th graders come in and they're still hunting and pecking. They're frustrated. Their hair is on fire. They cannot get their thoughts into the computer in an efficient manner. Why? Because we don't teach keyboarding until 6th grade. Yet teachers are expecting students to compose their papers electronically starting in 3rd grade. So now we're teaching them bad habits because nobody has taught them how to keyboard till 6th grade. And let's go back to the CRTs. We are going to have the CRTs online 2014, okay? They have to sit at a computer and compose their thoughts. And they will be doing this. Not very effective. And if none of that has convinced you so far, think of this. It's a matter of life and death that we teach our students computer technology at a younger age. You laugh. She's very dramatic. I know. However, think about it. We have an 11-year-old from Kalispell, Montana, who was recently abducted. 11 years old, because she formed a relationship online with a man, gave him personal information, willingly went with him. We teach stranger danger. We teach bicycle safety. We do not have a specific course or specific time to teach internet safety. We must get internet safety to all students, not hit or miss. All students must have internet safety before middle school. So I propose that our future consists of computer concept, keyboarding, and internet safety taught to kids as low as 3rd grade. How are we going to do this? It will take some resources, but we need to be squeaky wheels. Every committee meeting you go to, every investor you talk to, be loud and obnoxious about how important it is. If it isn't a matter of life and death, it is a matter of educating our future. Thank you.
Thank you, Casey. Thank you to all of our speakers. Let's thank